A coffin is prepared. The lid is nailed shut, and she is buried.
The following day, a grave digger works beside her grave.
He hears something.
A dull knocking from underground. He stops, presses his ear to the earth.
Help.
Authorities are summoned and the grave is opened.
The coffin is lifted, and the lid is removed. She gasps for air, and her eyes open.
Welcome to Lent Daily, where we're sharing stories from our Catholic tradition marked by sign or wonder of God that call us to conversion. Today's story is a little different. It tells of a woman who mocked the truths of the Catholic faith until she was confronted by the grave. Her name was Juliet.
She lived among others who knew her well.
She abandoned her belief because it no longer fit the way she was living.
Not quietly, but publicly.
She mocked religion incessantly, turned its most serious truths into jokes. Those around her warned her.
This will end badly. God will grow tired of your blasphemies. You will be punished. Bah, it gives me very little trouble. Who has returned from the other world to relate what passes there?
She said this often.
Not once, but repeatedly.
Less than 8 days later, Juliet was found alone in her room. She gave no sign of life. Her body was cold.
There was no uncertainty.
She was declared dead. A coffin was prepared and the lid was nailed shut.
She was carried out and lowered into the earth.
The grave was filled. Darkness closed. Beneath the earth, awareness returned.
Darkness.
Earth above, wood around.
A body stirs.
Her lungs pull in air. Fast, shallow breaths.
Hands strike the boards.
Again, the coffin does not move. Her head slams into the wood.
Blood from her forehead streaks her face.
The blows weaken.
They stop.
Each breath fights its way in.
Panic loosens its grip. This isn't the fear of dying. It's the fear of being lost forever. I am going to be damned. My God, I have but too well deserved it.
Breathing stalls.
Thoughts turn inward into prayer,
Into pleading.
then into silence.
The following day, a grave digger works beside her grave.
He hears something.
A dull knocking from underground. He stops, presses his ear to the earth.
Help.
Authorities are summoned. The grave is opened.
The coffin is lifted. The lid is removed.
Light breaks in. She draws a long, broken gasp. The breath of someone starved of air.
Her eyes open.
She tries to lift herself.
My God, I thank thee.
Later, when strength returns, words return.
I had despised the truths of faith. I was punished, yet in God's mercy I turned back and repented.
The lesson was learned. When the coffin was closed, the most dangerous moment to change your life is later. Hey, welcome back. Thank you for being with us. Today's story comes from the Dogma of Hell. We've taken a number of stories from there to make episodes for you. This story, there really wasn't any historical evidence backing this story, and it seems like the author gives it to us more as a anecdote for moral repentance and conversion. It definitely does make one think, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. I feel like, I don't know if everyone thinks about this at some point in their life, but like, what if you're buried alive? Have you thought about that?
I have not thought about that.
I have. That's terrible.
Well, I think in modern times, I think the likelihood of that happening is pretty small, considering the embalming process that we go through. However, I did look throughout history, and there was one case in 1650 of this lady named, I think her name's Anne Green. I wrote it down somewhere. If I got the name wrong, please forgive me. But she was executed and then brought to a hospital where they were going to do I don't want to say anatomy stuff. And they noticed breathing. And so she was revived. This is very well documented. But I placed myself in her position, or, getting a second chance. Mm-hmm. This line here, the most dangerous moment to change your life is
later.
Isn't
true.
That? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And maybe you've had those experiences in your life where you've been jarred and you haven't maybe been preserved from the coffin, but you feel like your life has been preserved. How did that affect you? Maybe a better question is this: how should have that affected you? Mm-hmm. Or have we let these moments of great grace that God has given us pass? Because maybe you've come back from the grave from an illness. You were on death's door and God preserved you. Mm-hmm. He gave you a second chance. Maybe you were driving in your vehicle and all of a sudden, for some unknown reason, you just slowed down at an intersection and something zoomed in front of you. You were preserved from an accident. I know I've had a couple of those experiences. One, I was 19 years old and I was mugged. I had a machete held to my throat. I thought I was going to die. And in that moment, there were certain things I thought that mattered that just didn't matter anymore. I remember thinking, like, my reputation means nothing. The pennies in my pocket mean nothing. The only thing in that moment with the machete to my throat was this: am I right with God? And that moment has really affected me in terms of how I perceive the temporariness of this life. We live sort of like in an illusion where we think the life we have in this current moment will last forever. But how fragile this life is. In a moment, we come into existence without doing anything, right? Our parents are co-creators with God. Come into the world without any effort, and we leave the same way. It's just gone. Yet what we do between the beginning and the earthly end affects eternity. So I would challenge you, look at your life. Have you had those moments where you thought your end was there, but for some graced moment, God preserved you from that? Now ask yourself the question, how ought that experience affect you? How ought you live now because of the gift God has given you, a second chance?
St. Alphonsus, quoting St. Bonaventure: to guide the vessel safely, the pilot must remain at the helm, and in like manner, to lead a good life, a man should always imagine himself at the hour of death.
So I ask you to imagine yourself at the hour of your death. Are you ready? Share with us below what stood out to you and why. Perhaps a moment where God preserved you and gave you a second chance, and share with us. Did that affect you in a positive way? We'll see you tomorrow.